Your front door is making an impression, whether you intend it to or not. Every person who walks up to your house, every neighbor who passes, every guest who arrives, every stranger who glances over from the street forms an opinion about that entrance in the first few seconds of looking at it. And a hanging basket, planted well with the right plants at the right time of year, changes that impression more dramatically and more immediately than almost any other single thing you can do to the outside of your home. The problem is that most hanging baskets never reach their potential. People buy them already planted in late May or June when the nurseries are at full capacity and everything looks tempting, hang them up, water them through a hot summer, and watch them decline by August into something straggly and tired. Or they attempt to plant their own without understanding which plants actually perform in a basket, which ones trail with the kind of generous abundance that makes a hanging display genuinely beautiful, and which ones establish fast enough to give you that full, overflowing look before the season is half finished. April changes all of that. April is the month when the right plants, planted in the right basket with the right mix, begin an establishment process that produces genuinely spectacular results by the time your front door sees its most traffic in late spring and early summer. The cool temperatures of April encourage root development over top growth, which means that by the time warmth arrives and the plant shifts its energy upward and outward, the root system supporting that growth is deep, established, and capable of sustaining a display that looks professionally planted rather than hopefully attempted. The 13 plants on today's list were chosen because they are the best of the best for April hanging baskets specifically. Some trail magnificently, some mound with color, some contribute fragrance that reaches you before you even see the basket. Some provide the structural anchor that makes everything around them look more considered and more designed. Together, in the combinations I'll describe as we go through them, they create front door displays that stop people mid-stride. Let's go through all 13. Number 1 is trailing lobelia. There are plants that fill a basket and plants that transform one. Trailing lobelia belongs firmly in the second category. And the reason it opens this list is that no other plant at this price point delivers the cascading, waterfall-like curtain of color that trailing lobelia produces at its peak. A solid, unbroken sheet of blue, purple, white, or rose that spills from the basket rim downward in such density that the basket structure behind it becomes almost invisible. April is the ideal planting month for trailing lobelia, specifically because this is a plant that needs a long, cool establishment window to build the kind of root system that sustains that extraordinary display through the demands of a full summer season. Lobelia is fundamentally a cool season performer. It loves the gentle warmth and bright days of late spring and early summer, and can struggle in the most intense summer heat. Planting in April gives it the maximum amount of time in its preferred conditions before temperatures climb. In a hanging basket, trailing lobelia belongs at the edges, planted around the entire perimeter so that the trailing stems have the full drop of the basket available to them from the beginning. Sapphire is the classic trailing variety with deep blue flowers and a white eye that creates a striking bicolor effect at scale. Cascade series offers the widest color range and the most vigorous trailing habit. Crystal Palace stays more compact but produces an intensely deep blue that is unmatched in its color saturation. Water consistently through April establishment. Lobelia roots are fine and don't tolerate drying out at any stage. And by late May, you will have a basket that looks like it has been growing for months. That is the April advantage for trailing lobelia. The long, cool establishment window produces a root system substantial enough to sustain a display that looks mature and generous long before summer has properly arrived. Number 2 is Bacopa. Bacopa is the trailing plant that experienced basket gardeners return to year after year because it does something that few other trailing plants manage with the same consistency. It covers the basket evenly, densely, and continuously, producing a carpet of tiny white or pale pink flowers so numerous that the foliage beneath them becomes largely invisible at peak performance. The stems trail with a fine, delicate texture that contrasts beautifully with bolder, larger flowered plants in the same basket. Where trailing lobelia creates a curtain of color, Bacopa creates a lace-like edge, Intricate, fine, and extraordinarily pretty when it spills over a basket rim and catches morning light. That textural contrast is one of the most important principles in hanging basket design, and Bacopa provides one end of it better than almost anything else available in April. April planting suits Bacopa perfectly because this is another cool season-preferring plant that builds its best root system in the gentle temperatures of early spring. A Bacopa planted in April and established through cool May conditions before summer heat arrives performs significantly better through July and August than one planted later. More drought resilient, more continuously flowering, more capable of sustaining that dense covering display through the most demanding weeks. Snowstorm Giant Snowflake is the most widely available and most reliably vigorous variety, with slightly larger flowers than standard Bacopa and a trailing habit that reaches 18 inches or more in a well-established basket. Plant it at the basket edges alongside trailing lobelia, and you get a combination of textures at the basket rim that looks considered and beautiful from every angle. Number 3 is Calibrachoa. If trailing lobelia is the waterfall and Bacopa is the lace, Calibrachoa is the abundance. This is the plant that makes a hanging basket look genuinely full, covered in hundreds of small petunia-like flowers in colors so saturated and so varied that a single well-chosen variety can carry the entire color story of a basket on its own. The self-cleaning habit is what makes Calibrachoa so particularly valuable in a hanging basket context. Unlike petunias, which need regular deadheading to keep performing, Calibrachoa drops its spent flowers naturally and continuously produces new ones without any intervention from you. The display is self-sustaining in a way that front door baskets specifically need, because nobody wants to be deadheading a basket above their head 3 times a week to keep it looking good. April planting gives Calibrachoa the establishment window it needs to develop the root system that powers that extraordinary flower production. These are vigorous plants with vigorous roots, and a basket planted in April will have a root system filling the entire growing medium by the time the first real heat arrives, capable of sustaining the water and nutrient uptake that hundreds of simultaneous flowers require. Superbells series is the gold standard for container and basket Calibrachoa. Available in an almost overwhelming range of colors, from deep cherry red to soft lemon yellow to that particular shade of warm terracotta that works so beautifully against a dark front door. Plant 2 or 3 varieties in the same basket for a multicolored display, or choose one strong color and let Calibrachoa's natural abundance make the statement on its own. Number 4 is Trailing Petunia. Trailing petunias have been transformed over the past 2 decades by breeding programs that have produced varieties almost unrecognizable from the upright bedding petunias of earlier generations. Wave, Supertunia, and Surfinia varieties trail aggressively, sometimes reaching 3 feet or more from the basket rim, and produce blooms in such quantity that a single well-established plant can cover a significant portion of a basket's surface on its own. The April planting advantage for trailing petunias is significant and specific. These varieties are vigorous growers that reward an early start more than almost any other basket plant. An April-planted trailing petunia basket develops roots through cool spring conditions, and then, when warmth arrives and triggers that characteristic surge of vegetative growth, the established root system is already in place to support it. The result is trailing stems that reach their full cascading length weeks earlier than a late-planted basket, and a display that looks genuinely full and overflowing by the time your front door sees its peak spring traffic. Deadhead spent blooms weekly to maintain the most continuous flowering display, though wave varieties are more self-cleaning than older types. Feed regularly once the basket is established. Trailing petunias are hungry plants, and a basket that gets consistent feeding through the season looks dramatically better than one that doesn't. A slow-release fertilizer mixed into the basket medium at planting, combined with liquid feeding every 2 weeks from late May onward, is the combination that keeps trailing petunias performing at their absolute best. Number 5 is Fuchsia. Fuchsia is the hanging basket plant that produces the most dramatic and most immediately impressive front door display of anything on today's list. The pendulous flowers, Those extraordinary two-toned blooms with reflexed petals and hanging stamens that move gently in any breeze have a theatrical quality that no other basket plant can match. A well-established fuchsia basket in full bloom outside a front door doesn't just look good, it looks extraordinary, the kind of display that makes people slow their cars. April is the perfect planting month for fuchsia because this is a plant that genuinely loves cool conditions for establishment and genuinely resents being planted into summer heat without a proper root system already in place. A fuchsia planted in April develops its root system through the cool weeks of spring and begins producing those spectacular flowers in late May or early June with a vigor and a generosity that late-planted alternatives cannot match. Choose trailing varieties specifically for basket culture. Swing Time with its red and white double flowers, Dark Eyes with deep red and violet, or Annabelle with soft pink and white blooms that photograph beautifully against almost any front door color. Keep the basket out of the most intense afternoon sun. Fuchsias prefer bright indirect light over direct midday heat. And water consistently because these are moisture-loving plants that will show stress quickly if the basket dries out. Maintain those conditions from April planting onward, and a fuchsia basket becomes the most talked about front door display on the street. Number 6 is ivy geranium. The ivy geranium earns its place on this list through a combination of qualities that no other basket plant offers in quite the same way. The trailing habit of a true cascading plant combined with the bold, weather-resistant flower heads of a geranium, all carried on waxy, rain-shedding foliage that looks clean and attractive even after the kind of April shower that leaves softer-leaved plants looking battered and sad. That weather resistance is particularly valuable in April baskets. Early season hanging displays face conditions that midsummer baskets don't. Cold nights, unexpected frosts in some zones, heavy spring rain, and temperature swings that can stress plants with more delicate constitutions. Ivy geraniums handle all of it without losing their composure. The waxy leaves shed water efficiently. The flowers are carried in clusters substantial enough to look impressive even after a wet day. The stems trail steadily and attractively regardless of what the weather has been doing. April planting gives ivy geraniums the cool establishment window they respond to best, building root systems that will sustain their trailing growth and continuous flowering through an entire long season. Mexicana series and Cascade series are both outstanding basket performers, available in colors from soft salmon and pale lilac to deep cherry red and bright white, covering the full range of front door color combinations that spring planting calls for. Number 7 is trailing verbena. Trailing verbena bridges the gap between delicate rim trailers and the more structural plants at the center, bringing both strong color and generous flowering into the composition. Its flat-topped flower clusters sit just above the foliage, forming a clear, readable layer of color that works at multiple distances. From across a garden path, it appears bold and cohesive. Up close, it reveals intricate detail. That dual performance is exactly what a front door basket needs. April planting is ideal. It gives verbena time to establish a deep root system before the demands of summer begin. A plant that roots through April and May will handle heat and dry spells far better than one planted late. Superbena varieties offer the most reliable trailing habit and weather resistance, with colors ranging from deep burgundy and scarlet to soft lilac and coral. Maintenance is minimal. A light deadhead every 10 days keeps the plant focused on flowering rather than seed production. Beyond that, trailing verbena largely manages itself, trailing outward, blooming continuously, and filling that crucial middle layer that makes a basket feel cohesive rather than scattered. Number 8 is Nemesia. Nemesia is often purchased on instinct and then becomes one of the most appreciated plants in the entire basket. In full bloom, it delivers an extraordinary amount of visual detail in a very compact space. The small, two-lipped flowers are carried densely above mounding foliage, creating a soft, almost embroidered effect that adds refinement to the arrangement. Its color range is where it truly stands out. Bicolor combinations, white with purple, yellow with orange, pink with cream, introduce complexity that larger flowers cannot achieve. This fine-scale variation adds richness and depth, especially when combined with simpler, more solid-colored plants. April is its natural planting window. Nemesia thrives in cool conditions, flowering heavily through late spring. As temperatures rise, it may slow temporarily, but well-established plants often return with a second flush in early autumn. Position Nemesia toward the center or just inside the basket rim. Its compact, mounding habit contributes height and middle layer detail without interfering with trailing plants. Paired with Bacopa, it creates a particularly delicate and balanced combination. Number 9 is Diascia. Diascia is frequently overlooked, but it plays a critical role in adding warmth and softness to a basket. Its flowers, in shades of coral, salmon, pink, and rose, introduce tones that contrast beautifully with the cooler blues and purples common in spring planting. That contrast brings balance and prevents the overall display from feeling too cold or flat. The plant itself has a semi-trailing habit. Rather than cascading dramatically, it flows gently outward, creating movement without dominating the composition. Its flowers are carried along airy stems, forming loose lines of color that shift with light and give the basket a subtle sense of animation. April planting allows Diascia to establish properly. A strong root system supports a long flowering cycle, from late spring into early summer, with a pause during intense heat and often a return in autumn. Reliable series like Whisper and Flying Colors offer consistent performance. Used alongside trailing lobelia and white bacopa, Diascia provides the warm counterpoint that completes a balanced color palette. Number 10 is Million Bells. Million Bells, a refined Calibrachoa series, remains one of the most dependable flowering plants for hanging baskets. What distinguishes it is consistency. It produces a continuous display of small, petunia-like flowers without interruption, and it does so with very little maintenance. The color range is extensive. Warm-tone varieties like Terracotta and Crackling Fire introduce depth and richness, especially against brick or stone. Cooler or brighter options, Cherry Pink, Lemon, Yellow, and White, provide contrast or lightness when needed. Its self-cleaning habit is a major advantage. Spent flowers drop naturally, and new blooms replace them immediately, eliminating the need for deadheading. With regular feeding and consistent watering, Million Bells will flower from April planting through to the first frost. It functions as a primary color carrier in the basket, filling space, maintaining continuity, and ensuring that the display never appears empty or uneven. Number 11 is Osteospermum. Osteospermum provides the structural anchor that gives a basket presence. Its large, daisy-like blooms rise above the center of the arrangement, creating a clear focal point visible even from a distance. This vertical element contrasts with the softer, trailing forms around it, producing a layered and intentional design. April conditions suit it perfectly. It thrives in bright days and cool nights, flowering most heavily during late spring and early summer, exactly when a newly planted basket should reach its peak. Compact varieties such as Serenity and 4D are best suited for containers. They provide strong flowering without overwhelming surrounding plants. Position Osteospermum at the center of the basket. From that anchor point, trailing plants can extend outward in every direction. The result is a composition that feels complete, not just planted, but structured. Number 12 is Sweet Potato Vine. Sweet Potato Vine contributes something entirely different: bold, architectural foliage. Its trailing leaves, available in deep burgundy, bright chartreuse, and warm bronze tones, act as a design element independent of flowering plants. This becomes especially valuable when blooms slow or pause between cycles. In those moments, the basket still looks full and intentional because the foliage continues to carry visual weight. Varieties like Blackie create strong contrast, making surrounding colors appear more vivid. Marguerite, with its bright chartreuse leaves, lifts and lightens the entire composition. Plant it near the edge of the basket, allowing its long stems to cascade freely. It acts as a unifying element, connecting different colors and textures into a cohesive whole. Number 13 is Scaevola. Scaevola completes the list with reliability under difficult conditions. Its fan-shaped flowers bloom continuously along trailing stems, typically in cool tones such as blue, lilac, and white. Once established, it tolerates heat, sun exposure, and periods of dryness better than most basket plants. This resilience makes it particularly valuable for front door displays, where conditions can be harsh and watering inconsistent. Varieties like Whirlwind Blue and Bombay Dark Purple offer strong trailing growth and consistent flowering. Planted at the edges, Scaevola extends below the basket rim and maintains color through the most demanding parts of the season. 13 plants, 1 month, 1 hanging basket that transforms a front door. Each plant plays a specific role. Trailing lobelia and bacopa create softness at the edges. Calibrachoa and million bells provide continuous color. Trailing verbena bridges the composition with a strong middle layer. Nemesia adds fine detail and intricacy. Diacia introduces warmth and gentle movement. Osteospermum anchors the structure with bold focal blooms. Sweet potato vine reinforces the design with dramatic foliage. Scaevola carries the display through heat and stress. Plant in April, when cool conditions allow roots to establish properly. Build the structure early, and the basket will sustain itself through the season. Because when the right plants are placed together, at the right time, in the right structure, the result isn't just a planted container. It's a composed, balanced display that holds its impact from spring through summer, and a front door that no longer feels ordinary. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to watch another video that might interest you.